Good morning and welcome back to the CJ Bushido YouTube channel. It has been a hot minute, hasn't it? We're going to do a Manchester recap video today, as well as a little bit of a short channel update. Where the heck have I been the past 6 weeks or so? And I think we'll start with a quick channel update. So basically, around Christmas, I thought, you know what, there's a lot of social stuff and family stuff I need to take care of. I'll take a little break. That break kind of ran a little long, I'd say. It's now February. Um, and for the past 4 weeks, I've been thinking like, oh, I should probably upload, shouldn't I? And then just getting sidetracked and tired and toddler, who, by the way, interesting side note, is also the reason why it's currently 4:22 a.m. on Monday, and we are recording this video. Well, this is take 5 of the Manchester video because I tried to do a scuffed recording yesterday on Sunday with him in the background, but yeah, he's ill. He's coughing and crying a bit, always wanting to come on my lap, and yeah, the recording was just a mess. So he's still in the background because he's woken himself up and me successfully. He's got a bit of a cough, so if you hear that in the background, don't worry, he's alive. He's just playing with his cars and we've got some music running in the background. Yeah, but we'll attempt to do another recording of the Manchester video and see how good that goes. Right. I hope to resume to a somewhat normal schedule going forward. I won't be doing the same like frequency of uploads as I did last year. I just don't have the free time right now, and I hope you can forgive me. And here's the young man calling me. Yeah, you can get your cars, young man. There you go. The joys of parenthood. So while I can't blast out the amount of like competitive games at the rate I was doing. I was trying to go for like 2 a week or something at some point. That's exhausting just because I constantly was online trying to find games to sit in and spectate and then upload. I don't know how I did that last year. I was apparently insane and I can't. I just cannot manage. And also, I think maybe it's time to transition the channel a little bit towards, I think, something that is more broadly useful. I'll still try and upload competitive gameplay here and there if I find a good game and I think it's of high quality, instead of just any game I can find. While I'd like to do a little bit more guide content because that's basically what A, people have been giving me the most positive feedback on, and B, what's probably most helpful for the community at large. So maybe some more faction deep dives, understanding scenario play and terrain placement, like what is my thought process? How do I approach these things? Because I get these questions literally every week. And yeah, try and take the channel from there. So if you have any cool ideas or like types of content you'd love to see, please let me know in the comments and I will do my best to accommodate. I know I was asked about a ninja dive like 8 months ago, I think it was. Like, literally, I don't understand ninjas. I'll do my best, but they're hard. Yeah. I'll and for the people who like the competitive videos, as said, like I'll still try and find good quality competitive videos for you guys. It's just it's not going to be the same frequency. That is impossible. I can't manage. Like, there's too much just work even within free time now happening to make like anything reasonable work because I'm just doing so much more for Bushido behind the scenes now. Yeah, and there's just less hours in the day. Okay. Anyhow, let's get on to Manchester, the reason why you're here, because that's what I'm going to put on the title. Manchester GM. Last week, 50 odd crazy people went to Stockport in Manchester and played a Grandmasters tournament in the UK. And it was a really, really fun event. It was amazing seeing so many people based in the UK that I hadn't had the chance to meet yet and putting faces to names. Special shout out and thank you to anybody who approached me and came to say hi and have a quick chat. I really appreciate that. It was really, really fun. Um, I had quite a few people recognize me by my voice alone, which was slightly weird because that hasn't really happened to me before, but it was really funny to see or apparently hear. Yeah, it was a rousing success overall. I really enjoyed the socializing aspect, hanging out with everybody. Element Games was a fantastic location as well. And I highly recommend anybody who is, interested in Bushido, but, hasn't dipped their toes into the competitive side yet, go and play tournaments. I've played tournaments in Germany and in the UK now, and they have been nothing short of lovely. So, and everybody I talked to as well just said, "Oh, I had, 5 amazing games. None of this like hyper competitive angle shooting stuff you might get in other scenes. It's very relaxed. It's very nice. It's very beginner friendly." And yeah, we had some people come up for their very first tournament. Fearless people down from Cornwall came up. Shout out to the Dice Smash boys. I met at breakfast. Yeah, who just complete Chad Lords and said, "Yeah, first tournament Grandmasters, no problem." Who is Esmin and what could she do in particular? Easy clap. So strong play. There we go. Yeah, but how did my games go, and what the heck was I doing on Ryu of all factions? If you know me, you know Ryu is not my faction. Like, I I I don't really like resemble in my playstyle Ryu at all. So what on earth was I doing playing them? I've been playing Dissension the last 9 months. What's wrong with me? Do I have a fever? Well, maybe a little bit. So the point was, I had found an interaction in Ryu when list building for a friend, and I was like, this is really strong, and nobody's playing this, and I want to showcase this because it's the classic case of CJ finds a model and a silly interaction that no one's playing, and people actively might consider bad because of some drawback, and there is a drawback. And I still believe in the concept. I had a little bit of an STS, well, we'll call it a caper with Shanoska, where I set out to prove that, yes, also that terrible model has a niche, and it turns out he does. And he's incredibly annoying when it works, and when the stars align. It's not a good list, don't play it, but it can work. And I was trying to do the same thing here in Ryu with a model who just doesn't get any love. Before we get into that, I'm going to look at my second list that I only played in round 5 that was just meant to cover the weaknesses of the first list. And because I wasn't really interested in playing that list, I may have done an oopsie later on in the tournament, but I will get to that. So, my second list was this amalgamation of profiles you have never seen before in Ryu. My goodness, who are these people? I'm just going to get rid of the top menu. Don't need that. There we go, got a little bit more space. I mean, Hagane, never seen her on the table before. Kumiko, yeah, never heard of her. Genji, Eiji, wow, these weird samurai nobody's ever heard of. Yeah, I know it's a super standard list, right? Um, Maybe a little bit top heavy, running Mizuchi and Hagane and other elite samurai with some upgrades. And if you have a little bit of experience, you'll be saying, CJ, what on earth is a triangle knife doing on Genji? There is method to the madness, I promise. I'm just not sure it's a good method or any good logic. And there's definitely a lot of madness, but let me explain, please. So, My big problem is, in testing, I figured out that my main list is hopelessly bad against Minamoto. Like, cannot beat it. The gimmick I'm going for just does not work against Minamoto. They just shrug it off and just say, so what? Enjoy Tetsubo. So I needed something that could play against Minamoto, and there are some other problem lists, and it turns out all your problems are solved with Dragon, which is also why I called the list Apply Dragon to Problem. Um, yeah, it's just turns out having Sixth Sense against ninjas and proning people at range, regardless of the damage you do, as long as you hit them against Minamoto, is really, really good. And then, yeah, just pair that with some really efficient samurai and AG to buff Mizuchi so he hits better at range. And yeah, job's good. The triangle knife was a little bit of a meta call on my part, as I had expected to see a lot more durable floating around, especially in lieu of recent Savage Wave success with Bakemono Hunting Pack. And they run 2 Nightwing Swarms that are really, really annoying for this list because only Hagane has a combo attack. And while Kumiko and Genji have a critical attack, I didn't want to rely on rolling doubles. And as it turned out, I would only attempt a single critical attack throughout the tournament and I wouldn't get it. So it turns out Ryu is good even without critical attack. Tell your friends. Yeah. And considering I finished 6th out of 49 on a 3-1-1 record, which was yeah, quite satisfying. I was very happy overall. I think I managed to prove my point. That yeah, the second list that I'm about to show you was good, and in fact so good that there's going to be an update to the FAQ to make it less good. So sorry, not sorry, but yeah, it was a dumb combo. You're gonna see that and you'll be like, yeah, okay, we get it. That's just boring to play against. Let's not have that in the game. But yeah, this is what the second list was for, and I should have played it more, but we'll get to that and my many regrets, because I'm a dumbass. Right. The actual reason I went to Manchester is this list. It's themeless. Yeah, I know. Um, Not something you really do a lot in Ryu. Let's just quickly get the boring stuff out of the way. There's Hagane, Kumiko, and Genji again. They're just efficient samurai. They do the job. They hit people. And I have 2 Ashigaru guns because gun go bang. And a whole slew of cards that we'll get to in a second. But the real star of the show is this good lad right here, Old Man Sato Kiyoshi. And he's the reason the list had to be themeless. And this is also, from what I can gather in the faction channel, the reason he is rarely looked at. Because Ryu themes are very powerful, such as Blood of the Dragon, gaining essentially a free critical attack on many models, and double key turn 1 is just really, really great. Passing the Night, we all know, strong theme. You can do some really cool stuff there as well. Claws of the Dragon gives you some really nice Ashigaru builds. So why are you going themeless for this dude? Because his stat line is not impressive, right? He's horrible in a melee exchange. He's not particularly fast. He's only got 5 wounds, no armor, and an average key stat of 2.8. What's the big deal, CJ? So the point is his traits and his key feats are a theme in itself, if you ask me. That's how good they are. So, first of all, he's a cheap tactician. He's got Tactician 1, 13 rice, you know, nothing wrong there. He's got a cute little strategy effect that every time you win a tactical test, you gain a key token. And he also has Scout 2-0, and Scout's useful, helps you win the deployment role, which is really important for this guy's unique effect, as we'll get into. So, with Tactician 1 and Scout 2-0, for the deployment tactical test, you're rolling 2 dice and adding 2. Turns out that's really good, and I won all of the deployment tactical tests, even against Katsumoto. So, happy days. Why is he so, you know, reliant on winning this deployment tactical test? Well, let's look at the backside of his card and his unique effects. At the very bottom, we can see after setting up normal terrain, choose deployment zones. Then add or remove one piece of large or smaller terrain using the normal terrain setup rules. So what you would do is, because you win deployment, you were building, and I would always pick player 2, you would build the table to your liking with this in mind, and most opponents would forget that he does this. You would pick your side, and then you'd remove one key piece of terrain that was really in the way, especially for the guns or a Hagane Banzai charge lane. And suddenly, your opponent's in a world of hurt. So that's really, really nice. But what's even worse is his very first key feat prediction. So his very first key feat prediction, coupled with some other effects in Ryu, was borderline illegal, at least what it felt like. And please excuse my son in the background. So what was the point? First of all, let's just look at the rest of the list before we go into the shenanigans. I have battle plans, so I get 2 pass tokens a turn. I only have 6 models, so if my opponent's running 7, 8, 9 models, I'll get some extra pass tokens. And I'm also going Patient Dragon on Kiyoshi. So instead of him running around the board and just, getting eaten by the first threat that gets into range with him, I had him mostly sit at the back end of the board on the baseline and just do wait actions. Turns out that was sufficient enough to make him really annoying. So every time you do a wait action with the Patient Dragon enhancement, you gain Tactician +1, which is nice, but you also gain 2 pass tokens. So essentially, his 2 wait actions plus 4 extra pass tokens plus the 2 pass tokens I got from battle plans equated to 8 pass tokens that I was using to just see what is my opponent doing before having to commit to anything. Then I would still have another 10 activations of regular models left, the 3 samurai and the 2 guns, bringing me to 18 regular activations in turn, and once I would be able to also buy 1 extra activation on Hagane for a total of 19 if I really wanted it, which is a lot. And the entire point was, in turn 1, all you do was wait, see what your opponent was up to, do some inconsequential moves on Kumiko and Genji, who wouldn't be in range usually to do anything special, maybe a move on Minoru, and then your opponent at the latest at that point would be out activated for the most part. So you'd still have Hagane with 2, potentially 3 activations left, as well as some activations on the guns, usually Kokyo with 2 and Minoru with 1 or 2. And then you would use Kiyoshi's key feat prediction. So let's look at it. What does that do? Well, this model's controller's opponent must declare which model they will choose as their next activating model. So I would turn on this key feat, and my opponent would have to tell me which model are they going to activate next. This is a really good effect, right? Because, if they choose wrong, you kind of have a little bit of free reign in the space that opens up. However, this key feat currently carries over into the next turn. It's one of the very few effects that does, and it's because how the second line of prediction is worded, that it doesn't care for the end phase. The choice is still legal, and it checks if the model that you have chosen becomes ineligible before it's chosen as the activating model in the next turn, and thus would carry over and wouldn't end in the end phase like most things do. Now, this is getting changed because I don't think that was what was intended. So there's going to be an FAQ update stating that it will end in the end phase, because my god, this was annoying to play against for my poor opponents. So what this would equate to was, I have 2 or 3 activations on Hagane left, and 3 or 4 activations on my guns left, and my opponent would already have to tell me what model they would activate the following turn, knowing that I have Sato Kiyoshi, who is a tactician, but he's gained tactician +2, so he's tactician 3, rolling 4 dice, and his second key feat allows him to re-roll the tactical roll, essentially almost guaranteeing the tactical roll for the next turn. So they would have to figure out, where is Hagana going to be? Where are the guns going to be? Who do I need to have to activate first next turn? Oh, by the way, my opponent's pretty much always going to go first as well. That's a nightmare to have to deal with. So, to be honest, it is rare that there is a correct choice. And this was the entire point of the list. No matter what you picked, and I will show a classic example in my round 2 match of how this goes wrong, I would be able to exploit this and punish you for it. And there was nothing you could do. And that was what felt so strong and almost illegal. For the most part, there was no good choice. In round 3 against Craig, there was a correct choice, but only because Craig was very smart in how he played and positioned and gave himself a correct option. This was also due to how his list was constructed, but kudos to him for finding it. But for the most part, games would almost end on turn 2 because I would set up for a devastating hit in turn 2, and there was no recovering from that because due to prediction, I was allowed to do whatever I wanted. So, please excuse the chugging of tea in the background. My opponent would choose a model. Then, with my remaining activations, I would look at how can I punish this to the maximum. Also, don't forget, like I have Hagana and guns, and Hagana has Banzai and possible 3 activations, like she can reach the other side of the board. So my opponent's already been playing under this really annoying question of do you run, do you not run, where do you go into cover, how far forward can you go? And then you add this extra layer of stress on top with prediction. So inevitably, there would be some weakness I could exploit. That's exactly where a gun or where Hagane would post up and either attack them at the end of that turn or at the beginning of the next turn. And then I would repeat using prediction in the following turn because Kiyoshi would have banked up a ton of ki at this point. He would have generated 4 naturally and only spent 2 on the very first prediction in turn 1. But there was a deployment tactical, a tactical test turn 1, and then a tactical test turn 2. Anytime he wins one, he'll gain an extra ki, potential +3 ki. And I was playing Year of the Risen Sun, so potentially, if I won all the tactical tests, he'd be at full ki. He would have generated 8 ki by turn 2 and only spent 2, which means he had 6 ki remaining, and would be able to do prediction another 3 times. And that, with, Hagane's power output and the guns, would basically fillet most lists. And that was the entire idea of the list. I ran Vanguard with 1 Ashigaru Scouted on Kokio. Turns out I never really wanted the second Scout. In the very first version of the list, I had that, but I was never really convinced I needed it. The range on the guns is just so great. Also, the guns really don't want to be in the midfield for the most part. They tend to not like being in melee exchanges. So I scrimped and saved on a rice there. And I spent it more on dice manipulation. So I had a Preordain and Grace of the Kami that were both meant like high numbers in the Preordain would always go to my guns so that they were more reliable in shooting. Low numbers would go to melee fighters such as Hagane and Kumiko so they could hit people hard. And the Grace of the Kami, essentially, if you haven't seen it before, what it does is for any one test, ones would count as if you had kata for both players. And what I would use it for is on ranged attacks. So for my guns, if I really needed a gun to do well, I'd like to combine a high preordained number plus Grace of the Kata to essentially guarantee a really good shot. Because I'm spending 24 rice on it. I need some sort of return here. So let's quickly talk about the guns, because if you faced them before, they're really horrifying. So they're Pierce 3 plus 4 weapons with a massive range. However, they have reload 2, so they're not quick at shooting. And because Kokio is on the field, I get signal flags. What are signal flags? So signal flags are little markers. They are normal, clear, and small and destructible. And enemy models within 3 inches of this terrain element gain range defense -2. This stacks. So what I would do with signal flags is essentially deny cover, tell you please sit in this zone that I have cleared of terrain with Kiyoshi's unique effect, where you're going to have range defense -2. Or if you want to touch this idol over here, well, that's fine, but you're not going to get a cover bonus because there's a signal flag next to it. So you'd get your cover bonus, and I would then give you another -2, essentially putting you out in the open. You don't want to stand out in the open against guns. That's not fun. And this dual threat was really tough to deal with, it turns out. So yeah, this list worked a charm. Right. This is what I faced. This is just a quick representation of the 5 rounds in order. So I started off facing Sylvan Spectre, who fearlessly accepted my challenge. He played the Deep. In round 2, I ran into a Ryu Mirror. And surprise, surprise, there was a Hagane there. In round 3, as I already alluded to, I played against Craig's Ito, running Ito Itsunagi, who would give me no end of problems, as it would turn out. And rounds 4 and 5 on day 2, I had Minimoto games. One of them a more classic Finest Steel with Odamu, Ice Switches, Bears, and the like. And the second a really, really cool brew with 4 Kamis, which I'll show you off later in a second. Right, back with a little bit of a jump skip. Right, so we've just seen the lists that I would play against in order. And in round 1, I faced off against Sylvan Spectre's Deep. So we were on Ryuseikyu on corner edge deployment. So I posted up a flag near the middle of the board in such a way that its 3-inch range would cover basically the entire zone, and just say any model that stands in this zone is in trouble, and also give a little bit of cover towards what would essentially become my zone, as I would be setting up on this side of the board, while the Deep would be over in the top right hand side from my perspective. And this game being on Ryuseikyu, it was imperative for us both to get into the middle zone and contest it so that we would win the first VP. Understandably, Kanikun immediately made a beeline into here, ran in, and just said, "This is mine. Deal with me." While the rest of the Deep made a very strong push into the right-hand zone, and Mother of Pearl, alongside Moyasu and a Crab, were hanging back and trying to provide support with her very strong key feats and Moyasu's potential damage output and annoying immobilizers. So what I had to do against this was pass, 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 pass. And then, well, I sort of sent Genji into this zone, just said, well, this is my zone, thank you very much. Kumiko moved towards the middle. Hagane hung back, was trying to be a little bit more flexible, while my guns took up roughly this position, somewhere like this, and went bang and bang. And turns out 2 shots in short with a signal flag, even for Kanikun, who has perma cover through his unique effect, had run, has range defense on the profile, and is in the Deep, is not enough to stay alive. Yes, one gun rolled 1 damage above average, but still, deleting Kanikun turn 1 was quite nice. I will not lie. So what this meant was Rich was on the back foot immediately through no real fault of his own, and had to come up with a quick plan to not get completely run over. and he spotted a gem of an idea that I had completely missed. It only had one small drawback, and I think neither of us really appreciated the value, or even let's just say the upside and downside of the idea. Um, but it really did get me worried. And the idea that Rich came up with as a sort of a counter to me was to take Kappa and just put him into this zone and put up a massive quagmire. So I think it was a 4-inch quagmire, and just saying, "You're not getting in here," because my guns were reloading, and Kappa could just sit here and say, "Well, this is your problem now." Turns out this would be both of our problems because, well, none of us really had light-footed. The only model that could really ignore the quagmire was Moyasu, hanging around near Mother of Pearl, and everybody else was like, "Oh, we can't enter the middle zone now." So internally, I was panicking and trying to think of a way like, how can I get in? And oh no, what do I do? While externally trying to, preserve a poker face and be confident and say, yeah, it's not a problem. I quickly measured the range between Kumiko and Kappa, and luckily I would just about be able to engage with 2 melees and also stand in the zone. So this is what I was banking on. So I started the waiting game again. Just went pass, 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 pass. Moyasu floated into the zone as well. And I believe Hideaki also tried to make his way into the zone. I think barely made it in. And I ended up YOLOing Kokyo, who was in range, so he must have been somewhere like here, and Kumiko into the zone to just about kill off Kappa and removing the Quagmire after all of the deep had moved and done their thing. They had been blocked themselves by the Quagmire, but I still had a ton of activations, especially in Hagane meant I now had free reign to just, I think I Banzai'd up here and killed a model, then I Banzai'd over here and killed another model, and roughly this was, the situation end of turn 2, and we could call the game at that point. There was no coming back. There was no way to suicide into my list and sort of even out the game for Rich. Yeah, and that was a 3-0 in round 1. Probably really unfortunately for Rich. I mean, he accepted my challenge blindly, not knowing what he was playing into, and I didn't know what he was running. But I had actually practiced this exact matchup as the very first test game of this list, um, 2 months before the tournament. So I had a really good understanding of what I exactly what I needed to watch out for. So that was maybe a little bit unlucky for Rich that I had experience in this exact matchup, and he was, you know, coming into this basically blind and having to figure out what to do on the spot. I'll take it. It helped. But yeah, definitely slightly unfortunate for my opponent there. But thank you for a great game, well played anyway. And I'm going to be saying this about all of my opponents because they were all lovely. Okay, round 2, I ran into the Ryu mirror, and we would play this on Osatsu. So again, I posted up the signal flag close to the center because I wanted to say, go on, touch this idol if you can, and it was corner square deployment. So I had this diagonal of where to put the flag, so I could be slightly aggressive. And a little bit more of the same. I was playing into a 5 or 6 model, I can't exactly remember. Katsumoto, Sadao, Kumiko, Hagane. Oh, there's 2 Haganes there. There you go. 5 model prefecture list. That looked really terrifying on the lid, but I knew I had the perfect counter in this list. Like this is the kind of list that my list was designed to prey on because it had key models that were expensive, where the armor would be negated, and I was able to assassinate them and swing the game in my favor. And this is exactly what would happen. And it was a textbook game of why prediction was so strong. So we started trading pass tokens early on, but I had the weight of pass tokens through Satoshi Yoshi's wait actions, as well as just more models and more activations in general. So how the game ended up after turn 1 was Akio had come over to this idol, as well as Hagane, and they were taking cover from the guns because they didn't want to die. Kumiko was hovering just outside the 3-inch range here of the signal flag and relying on her range defense as well as, kata and all her defensive goodness to just stay alive, while Sadao was hanging back. And Katsumoto was in a forest roughly over yonder. This is a very rough representation of what it was, maybe something more like this. And then I still had a ton of activations left. Again, I had sent Genji over here. Hagane was waiting. Kumiko was, I don't know, somewhere over here. Kiyoshi was at the back line just doing wait actions. Probably had Minura here, and Kokyo scouted up 4 inches to wherever that is. Somewhere here. And I asked my opponent, so prediction, who are you moving first next turn? And I still have 2 activations, 2 or 3 activations, 2 activations. Well, good luck. So my opponent chose Akio, which is not a bad choice per se. I probably would have gone with Kumiko because she was just closer to the action and could react in anywhere where she may have been needed. But Akio wasn't a bad shout per se. But no matter what my opponent would have chosen, there is something I could just punish at this point. So Hagane is just dead here, as weird as that sounds. She's in cover, she's run. How is she dying? Right? Well, turns out I don't need to shoot her this turn. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run Kokyo 6 inches, and then I'm going to walk 4, get behind the line of cover here, declare simple key feat because I have 2 key turn 1 due to my Year of the Risen Sun, and place down a signal flag. And this is not healthy. So I put down a signal flag here. There's no cover. I'm in short range. You're in range of the signal flag. And I'm going to win tactical even against Katsumoto because I have more dice than Katsumoto and I can re-roll. And I just shot her. I used my Preordain and Grace of the Kami on this because I really needed to make sure this happened. Got an SL5. Went as far as to put even my second Preordain 5 into the damage roll to guarantee a kill. And the very first activation of turn 2, Hagane was out of the game. Yeah, this is bad. And now, because I'd measured, Akio was even out of range to come and hit Kokyo. So Akio had this really awkward choice of what do I even do at this point? This is why I probably would have taken Kumiko because she could have just immediately punished Kokyo. Turns out she would end up catching him and killing him anyway. So maybe that was fine. But there's no real recovering from this. I just had too much of a lead. And at this point, I think my lovely opponent, Richard, should have started just throwing critical attacks and trying to get lucky. He was playing Blood of the Dragon, so all of his crits cost 0. Mine would still cost a dice. And he had more of them available. And if he'd just, thrown his samurai in and just said, I need to get lucky here and crit your Hagane and crit your Kumiko off the board, and then I can come back into this game, there may have been a way for them to steal a VP or even the game at that point, depending on how lucky they got. But alas, it was not to be. I defended well. I was basically only rolling defense dice the entire game. I only actively attacked Sadao because he's annoying and I wanted him dead. But otherwise, for the most part, I was just rolling full defense, absolutely not interested in even taking an SL0 critical strike and opening my, a path up for my opponent into this game, and I slowly grinded out a 3-0 victory. Okay, so that was round 2. Round 3 was corner edge again against Ito. This was an interesting match, let me tell you. Keep the prediction token around. Right. And Kokyo and Ichino Riton. Here we go. So, I'm just going to grab a forest here. It's a nice little forest. We can see the trees. I'll get rid of the trees. This game, I played against Craig, who would go on to win the tournament. Congratulations again to a fantastic event result. Well played, mate. And he was playing Ito. And he had a really tooled up Ito Itsunagi with Paragon and Vial of Raijin's Breath, which meant, together with some key channeling, that he would have a 20-inch Cloud Walk charge on Itsunagi, who can then escape. It's like something like 6 or 7 inches or whatever it was. I think 7 inches, because the vial is still active, and get out of dodge. And that was really annoying to deal with. I really did not appreciate how annoying this would be going into the game. And Craig did a great game of great way of demonstrating that while he was on the back foot due to Kiyoshi's nonsense, he had ways to play the game and make it awkward for me. So, basically, what the game came down to was there was a large forest covering most of the zone here, and all the Ito models were posted up in this forest, trying to just hide from the guns, not get shot. Obviously, Satsuki was slightly further forward. The supporters were in the back. There was Isis in there somewhere. Yankee was hanging around the back, being a nuisance as usual. But because I had so many pass tokens, Kiyoshi was at the back end of the board. I put some ideal terrain here so I could really launch Hagane forward. She was just standing there and waiting to fight back. I had my guns spread out trying to take some good angles. And Kumiko and Genji in the zone, just basically inviting Itsunagi to come and have a go if he thinks he's hard enough. Turned out he wasn't, and that was probably the correct decision, because trading Itsunagi here would have been a disaster, especially considering after the game, Craig revealed that Itsunagi was his Vim model. So throwing Itsunagi away was a bit of a problem. So why would he even have had to throw him away? Basically, how the game went was I would pass, Ito would have to show me their hand, basically decide there was nothing useful they could do. They would have to sit back because of all the counterattack threats I had, and then I would do prediction, and Craig would always choose Itsunagi. Because of his speed and his range and cloud walk, he would be able to touch me wherever I attacked him from. However, the only downside of that being, and by the way, I still think it was the correct decision on Craig's part. So again, well played to him. Was his very first activation had to be Itsunagi, and this usually meant either committing to a charge very first activation and getting swarmed, as I just mentioned, or saying I'll do nothing, and now I can't charge. So this took away 10 inches of engagement range. Again, Kiyoshi strong model. So amazing what you can do just with Kiyoshi, prediction, and some pass tokens. At the same time, Ito's scary, and they hurt, and I couldn't really attack Craig that easily. And the game was, progressing. And roughly towards the beginning of round 3, we had gotten the information from the TO that there was about 20 minutes in the round left. So we knew we weren't going to reach round 5, and it would all come down to, can one of us swindle the other in round 3 and get a 1-0 victory instead of, a draw? We openly communicated that, and Craig kind of quickly figured out there was no way he was able to get into my zone reliably without opening himself up to a counterattack that would take the zone away from him. and only really Itsunagi could reach my zone, so I was easily able to hold it, even if he killed a model. So he decided to just stay defensive, post up, spread out well so there were no easy split attack opportunities, and then I attempted to break it. So I only had Kyoshi in my zone. I traded Kokyo for Yankee and Minura as well, because some careless positioning on my part. And I threw in my 3 samurai to try and steal a 1-0 victory. Essentially, Craig reacted well. He did well, he guessed my dice allocation in the one melee exchange between Hagane and Itsunagi, where he needed to get it right, and was able to successfully hold me out, hold on to his zone, and we agreed to a 1-1 draw at that point. It was a really, really interesting and intense game, along similar lines that we played in Hamburg. So I'd had this weird sense of deja vu while we were playing, which was really fun. And yeah, it's always a pleasure playing Craig. It's always high quality. Highly recommend if you can. You're gonna learn a lot. So playing the good players is yeah, where you just get shown like Bushido is just way deeper and more complex than you really can imagine. So thank you again to Craig for a fantastic game, and yeah, congratulations on your third GM title. All right. So round one, we ended the day on a 2-win and 1-draw situation, which was really, really nice. So high up the table, I was super satisfied already at that point. Going 3 games undefeated at a Grandmasters kind of proved my point that Kiyoshi is a threat, and you should watch out for him. And I just collapsed into bed. I was so tired. We went for dinner. It was lovely at an Indian place near the location, and I almost fell asleep at the table. I was so exhausted. Yeah, so no wild partying for me, and that was for the best. I just went to bed, had a good 6-hour nap, woke up completely confused. Where am I? Oh, yeah, I'm in Manchester, and got ready for the second day of the tournament. Okay, so round 4, we would see the only true idols mission. Okay, I have no idea what is happening with Muzukashi. This happened to me yesterday as well, and I think it's because I have too many objects. Let me just rewind time. I'm just not going to load the idols because I think this is a bit of a problem here. I have broken something. This is on me, by the way. So you're just going to have to think 6 idols, and I was playing against Matt's finest steel Minimoto. And if you harken back to what I was saying, this is my worst matchup. Like literally the single worst matchup in the entire game. Okay, and another jump cut later. It's now 2 hours after the bit you've just been listening to. Little guy is successfully in daycare, and I'll try and finish this without further distractions. Okay, so I think I left us at the end of day 1, where we had gone 2-0-1 with a hard-fought draw in the round 3, and round 4 starts the second day, and I'm paired against Minamoto, which again is my worst matchup by far. I've tested this. This is unplayably bad for the Kyoshi list. So I picked the Kyoshi list. I'm not entirely sure. Well, I am sure what my thought process was. It was, I came here to play Kyoshi, I will play Kyoshi. And I don't know if it was a little bit of stupidity or arrogance or both, or just gung ho mentality. I just really didn't want to play a standard, what I consider dull Ryu list. I wanted to have some fun and see if I could pull it off with Kyoshi. Turns out I couldn't. It's because Minimoto can just absorb the gunshots, and then at that point you're just really fighting uphill. The constant blizzards from the Blizzard event card, as well as Rinko, meant charging with Banzai on Hagan was also off the table, and just constantly being slow was really tough to deal with. So Minimoto just got their game plan essentially. Um, I could have swindled a win if I had been a little bit more observant and awake. There was a way how I could have stolen the first VP. We ended up tying it, and the situation on the board was this was the game where I had attempted the one critical attack all weekend with Kumiko versus Yu Yu Kuma. And me and Matt both knew, like, if this crit goes off, I got a success of a 1 or something silly. So I wasn't really even expected to do any damage, right, with the tough 2. But you get that 1 and 6, and the game just completely flips. So I picked up the dice to roll for damage and paused for a second. And we both just looked at each other and had this weird short chat about how silly this is, that basically the game is going to come down to this 1 and 6. And I rolled, and I think actually, luckily, I didn't get it. I would have felt really bad if I had. If you know me, you know I detest critical attacks for exactly this reason. They are just too volatile, too swingy. I don't enjoy them at all, even if they're in my favor, because it doesn't feel like I deserved the outcome. I didn't really achieve, like, I didn't do anything special. Why would I get rewarded that heavily, right? And so were in in turn 4 on Muzukashi after tying the first VP, and the clock was going to time out again. So I knew if I wanted to, because I had enough pass tokens and activations remaining, I could stall the game out in turn 4 and theoretically claim a 0-0 or a 1-1, depending on what we agreed to, a draw, essentially. That would not have been fair, in my opinion, to the board state and Matt's excellent, execution on his game plan. I think if the game had run to its full conclusion, there was no way I could have stopped Minimoto winning that game. So it felt kind of dirty to play it on clock and claim a draw. So I told Matt, like, yeah, I could do this now, but I really don't want to. And congratulations to your 1-0 victory. And in the moment, I had this twinge of regret while saying it. But now, after the fact, I feel very happy that I did. It's something that would have annoyed me if I hadn't done that, because it would have just felt so unfair, right? So yeah, I lost that game, and I shouldn't have played Kiyoshi into Minimoto knowing it's a bad matchup. But hey, I'm dumb. Don't copy me. Apparently, I think that's the lesson we can all take from this video: is just don't copy me. I do silly things, and that's why I didn't win the Grandmasters, because yeah, that's not how you win these things. Anywho, it was a lovely game, and I really enjoyed meeting and playing Matt for the first time, and I'm looking forward to hopefully getting the chance to play him again, and maybe I'll get my revenge then. Because again, he did outplay me on the board, so fair play to the lad. And again, I think we also have to just look back at the fact Matt went undefeated on the day. He went 5-0 and came in a fantastic second place. So congratulations to Matt on an excellent tournament. Did really, really well, and was only just pipped to the GM on one tournament point by Craig. So yeah, he had a fantastic run, and well done to him. All right, and that brings us to round 5, where I paired off against Minimoto again on Botoku. So the 4th zone scenario out of 5, which was slightly rough, not kind of what I was looking for. But I mean, times are tough, and you just got to deal with it if you want to be a GM. So nut up, sack up, or something, whatever the Americans say these days. Um, I got surprised because I thought I was just going to run into another of these finest steel lists. That was one of the lists that my opponent presented to me, Drew, a lovely person from, I believe, the Stockport Kogan, and we had just another lovely game with lots of laughs and a whole heap of ones on both sides, but especially on Drew's side. But during list selection, I really got surprised. So I thought I was just running into Finest Steel again, the classic list, and I was like, okay, I think we have proven that that doesn't work. I don't want to suffer again. I'll pick the dragon. It's Batoku. He'll be good there with his slam attacks, right? Um, and my opponent didn't pick the classic Finest Steel list, but a very, very cool, interesting brew he had come up with using 4 Kamis. So the list revolved around, I have a few of the key cards here. There we go, that's more like it. Aida and the Kami of Enduring Embers, 2 Fire Kamis, Kajiya, Koyama, Kamui, and Machiko. And I was surprised at how annoying this list was. It has an amazing amount of range damage, with Machiko obviously being a threat. The Kami hits like a truck. 2 Fire Kamis can also shoot. You have Koyama stun and fire marker. It's annoying. Um, I didn't give it the respect it deserved in round 1, to be honest, and almost got punished for it. However, Dragon came through. It apparently is just the case that if you apply Dragon to the problem, then the problem goes away. So what happened was, late in the turn, I had Mizuchi move up and slam slam Kamui out of the zone and into Koyama. And that gave me a lot of breathing space in turn 2 to set up a really nasty Banzai charge that would eventually catch Michiko. And once the Kami of Enduring Embers got killed by a very heavily wounded Genji who had taken a fireball to the face, Mizuchi just floating around and being a nuisance, as well as Hagane just doing her thing, just charging over the board and managing to remove Machiko, who was definitely the largest threat for my list at that point. Yeah, there wasn't really much that Drew could do at that point, especially because his dice were really letting him down. I mean, we both had some horrendous defense rolls. Koyama got into my Mizuchi, for example, and I rolled 2 defense dice and I got a double 1. And it turns out SL7 hurts, and I took 7 wounds, taking me down from 10 wounds at the time down to all the way down to 3. And I think I got lucky that I didn't get one shot, because the attack dice was 6 with brutal going up to 7, but everything else was a 1 and re-rolling into 1. So it was just a comedy of bad dice on Drew's end, and commiserations to him because he really didn't deserve like all of those ones that just came his way. And when Hagane charged in, Drew couldn't find anything better than a 1 to defend himself, and then, well, I mean, if you're getting success level 7 combo attacks, then yeah, Minamoto don't feel as tanky as they probably should. So by the time turn 4 had rolled around, I'd cleaned up everything except Aida, the new blacksmith over here, and I just walled off Aida with a Genji who just kept rolling 4 dice in defense with parry and just said, I'm not interested in fighting with you. Let's just call it a 3-0. And that's how that game ended and the tournament ended. So ended on a high note. Overall, it was enough for 3 wins, a loss, and a draw, and 6th place, which was, yeah, really satisfying result, I have to say. Overall, I'm very, very happy with how the tournament went and how I placed, especially considering it was my first event with Ryu, and now that I've played the gimmick, I don't think I want to play Ryu again. It's just not my style. It's a little bit too samey on the game plan, and I kind of want more agency and more tricks that I can use. So come Sweden in Göteborg at Easter, I will be playing something different. and I'm very much looking forward to that. Should be an absolute blast. Yeah, and again, I can only reiterate, everybody should definitely check out the tournament scene. Everybody's incredibly friendly and super helpful also to newcomers. It's a great way to get your um, Bushido journey started in general, but also your competitive journey started. It's not like hyper competitive as it is in many other systems that I have encountered, where people bicker and argue about quarters of inches or anything, and rules, interpretations. You have a TO, he'll decide it, and that's it. So it's very, very friendly. There's awesome people all around. Highly recommend it. Do come check it out, and I hope to see you there at the next big tournament. Right. Other than that, I think that'll do it for this recap for now. Again, I will attempt to find some sort of reasonable upload schedule, maybe a video every 2 weeks. Let's not commit to too much right now. And I'll try to focus more on guides and faction overviews and understanding of the game as I outlined early on. Please, please, please let me know what type of content you'd like to see, and I'll try and do my best to provide that in the comments or on Discord. And if you have any questions, always feel free to shoot me a message on Discord, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. That will usually be on the same day. Obviously, I might be busy, but you know. Yeah. Hope to see you soon. Thank you for tuning in, and until next time, here on CJ Bushido not Discord channel, YouTube channel. Well, hey.